switch topics here.
A little bit of a switch, thank you. Vice Chair Davila, Ranking Member Sweeney, and members of the House Finance Committee, thank you for your previous support and for the opportunity to provide testimony today on House Bill 96. My name is Jory Novotny, and I serve as Executive Director for the Ohio Association of Food Banks. Our organization represents Ohio's 12 Feeding America food banks and their thousands of local food pantries, soup kitchen, shelter, and supplemental feeding partners across every county in Ohio. I've had a chance to speak with many of you about our budget amendment, and I also know that many of you have been in conversation with your local food bank and have been out in the district to see firsthand the needs that your constituents are experiencing. So thank you for that. To put it briefly, because of persistently high inflation and increasing costs for food, as well as pressure on other household expenses like housing, utilities, medical care, and transportation, simply more Ohioans are experiencing budget shortfalls more often. So in our network, we sourced 150 million pounds of food from donated, privately purchased, state and federal sources just in the first 6 months of this current fiscal year. Yet that was less food per food pantry visit than in any year in the past decade because of increased need and our own reduced purchasing power due to that inflation. The good news is that together we have a proven model that we've operated in public-private partnership with the state of Ohio and farmers and growers for 3 decades. Our network is designed to efficiently capture food that might otherwise be wasted. We send out trucks daily to pick up close-to-code product at grocer and retailers. We work with food manufacturers to bring in their R&D and excess product. We work with USDA to move surplus product and support markets. And we use our state funding to operate food purchase programs designed to increase access to healthy foods and create and maintain agricultural and food supply chain jobs. I had a couple of our food program vendors join us to offer testimony before House Children and Human Services Committee, and they provided a couple of real-world examples of the impact of those programs on our agricultural industry. Keystone Meats is a family-owned and operated meat packing plant in Lima, Ohio. Their president talked about how supplying his products, which are made with all Ohio livestock, to food banks, which he does just at cost to us, helps him keep his workforce more fully employed and supports the local livestock producers they partner with as well. Similarly, the Fruit Growers Marketing Association, which is a cooperative of over 40 Ohio farms that grow apples, peaches, corn, tomatoes, and potatoes, talked about how budget cuts to our state-funded food purchase programs would mean farmers leaving crops in fields and not harvesting, leading to less product for food banks and less income for farmers. House Bill 96, unfortunately, as introduced, reduced funding for the Ohio Food Program and Agricultural Clearance Program by $7.5 million per year. So I'm here to respectfully request on behalf of our network the restoration of that $7.5 million per year cut and additional funding of $4.93 million per year for a total investment of $36.98 million per year in the budget. While many sectors of the economy have recovered, food banks are experiencing record high utilization, in large part due to national inflation. That's why we're seeking a restoration of cuts and an adjustment based on CBO inflation projections and the increased utilization we've experienced. We provide take-home groceries to more than 1.3 million food pantry visitors each month. We provided 17.7 million prepared meals last year through shelters, hot meal sites, and supplemental feeding programs. And we want to continue to be good stewards. So in closing, I just want to underscore how we leverage that investment. We create and maintain nearly 300 jobs in Ohio's food supply chain. We rescue food that would otherwise be wasted. We stretch that investment by leveraging 85,000 unduplicated volunteers, valued at $10.5 million each year, and we source 140 million pounds of donated and privately purchased foods. So in closing, Chairman Stewart and distinguished members of the House Finance Committee, thank you, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee?
Rep. Choi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Director Novotny. Is any of your problem now in terms of food availability and the cost being compounded by some of the activity that's taking place in our nation's capital? I mean, are you seeing, possible reductions through the U.S. Department of Agriculture? Maybe, I don't know how many avocados you give out, but those are certainly going to go up in price. So your comments on that.
Through the chair to the representative, thank you for asking. The food supply chain is incredibly interconnected. So every decision that gets made at any level ultimately can possibly impact food supply, consumer prices, and access to food in our food bank network. We did receive notice on Friday afternoon about termination of one federally funded program through the USDA, and we're sending a message to Congress and to USDA that we're here to be partners with every administration in supporting our farmers and food manufacturers. I think that decisions are ahead on how resources will be invested to ensure that we continue to have a food secure supply chain. Right now we are experiencing delays and disruptions and cancellations in access to food at the federal level. That's correct.
Representative Glassburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I represent some predominantly middle-class communities in suburban Cleveland, and monthly I run a distribution food bank in my city. And I was surprised that for at least our food bank, at least half of the people that are coming are seniors who are saying, this isn't something where I saw myself in this place, but because of property tax increases, I'm here. Are you seeing changes in the demographics of who you're serving? Or is my experience unique?
Through the chair to the representative, thank you, Representative Glassburn. I'm familiar with your volunteer efforts in North Olmsted and appreciate you being present in your community. That is not unfamiliar with what we're seeing. In fact, we've seen since just 2019 an over 70% increase in the seniors that we're serving at our food pantries. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is we have an aging population, and when they can't stretch their fixed incomes to afford rising costs for food and other household expenses, food is the thing that gets sacrificed first. So when we see them in our lines, it's very difficult to imagine that they'll be able to exit our lines. We won't see deflationary pressure on our food prices, and similarly, they are experiencing rising costs in utilities, property taxes, and more.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next witness will be Kristen Mullins from the Ohio Grocers Association.